Number 6 on April 24th. We are opening the public meeting for activation commission amendments. Roll call. Mike Mandelier.
Leah Whiting, Suka Halen, Vice Chair.
Isabella Nova, Conservation Agent, and I'll note we are recording the meeting.
Good welfare for the public. Does anybody have anything they would like to bring to the attention of the Conservation Commission tonight? Please come up.
Jane Long, 40 Millville Street. I live adjacent to the area that the applicant is clearing,
Which applicant, please?
Mr. Cochran.
42 Milton
Yes.
We
Street.
could probably
Yes.
do that when we got on the agenda.
Is this the wrong hearing?
No,
No, it's
you're right, please.
just, in the middle of the time. Liz,
Okay.
so that is coming up later, I just. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do,
Am I too?
early.
Okay,
But we like their enthusiasm.
all right, well, it's,
Better early than late
I
or
know.
never, right?
it's my commitment to save
So-
wetlands. Diminishing.
Don't worry, we got you covered.
Somebody that. Speak or.
Hearing.
If nobody else has anything to say, then we'll move on to agenda number 4, 35 Capitol Ave, P number 2180864. Yeah.
I do need, so 2 commissioners missed public hearings, so if they reviewed, Bob missed one and Mike missed one. So if you reviewed the minutes, I can have you sign the forms so you can vote.
Do that, Mike? Good. Yes. You sign it? Yeah, pen.
Yeah. You need a pen?
Yeah.
You take that. Okay.
Here's our illustrious chair. Nothing.
Any-
Another meeting.
Another meeting, a run through of the town. meeting.
So we did get issued the DEP file number 218-0864. They gave comments which are on our broken sheets. Into the comments.
Wouldn't it be appropriate to read that out for the rest, well, rest of the crowd?
They call the hearing.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. Any comments? Please note the following. Review of aerial imagery indicates that a natural shoreline existed on the property circa 2010. The commission may consider inquiring about the history of shoreline alteration on the property, including the location of the bank and other resource areas like bordering vegetated wetlands prior to alteration activities, and whether sand was intentionally placed in this location or if sandy soils became exposed because of erosion. The applicant is proposing to supplement the beach area with sand. The commission may ask the applicant why this is necessary and if sand is being loaded into Nipmuc Pond. If so, how does the applicant intend to prevent this? Commission and the applicant should discuss how prior and proposed work meets performance standards for bank found at 310 CMR and BVW found blah, blah. And the applicant should submit or revise page 3 of the WPA Form 3 if alteration quantities are updated. Updated, were they ever imposed? That's my editorial comment. Noting that bank alteration thresholds per 310 CMR 1054 have been exceeded. The commission may request a wildlife habitat evaluation be performed per 310 CMR. Should bank restoration be required, the commission may refer to 310 CMR. 1060.3. FEMA Zone A 100-year floodplain exists on the project lot. Zone A 100-year floodplain does not have a designated base flood elevation by FEMA. Per 310 CMR, the commission may reference the most recently available flood profile data prepared for the community if available, and in cases where it is not available, the boundary of bordering land subject to flooding shall be the maximum lateral extent of flood water which has been observed or recorded. Maximum lateral extent. The commission and the applicant should determine the maximum lateral extent of flood water observed or recorded on the property, and the commission may ask the applicant if there are any structures placed within the floodplain. Very thorough questions.
We realize there's a new owner, obviously.
Since 2009.
Yeah. So we're not,
And I don't know, Mr. why they chose 2010. They only went back so many years, or was that in some form? Because then they also say about updating something, which implies that something was noted originally. I forget what that was, but.
Craig, are there any structures existing in the floodplain?
In the floodplain? No. So. Not, that's what that's.
Gonna be perfect, yeah.
Previous meetings, that's removed.
It is actually, yeah.
Okay, well, is that because the applicant should submit a revised page 3 of the WPA Form 3 if alteration quantities are updated? Were there ever alteration quantities originally on the page 3? They're saying they should be updated if they're changing, and I'm not quite sure.
And that's one of the questions that we have is trying to get into the, how much sand, how many inches, how many square feet.
How much alteration?
And their requirement for requesting, how do you keep it going into?
Isabella, is the dock permit separate from this?
No, it would be one order.
Okay.
But you could have a dock without this, right? So this is part of the application, and we can approve parts of it or what, yeah.
It's marked up 60 linear feet of bank. In the notes of the town.
Also, the property that fronts the water at 60 linear feet.
I think my question, Greg, is how much do you want beach sand?
How much do I want? I mean, just to be honest with you, it's not, the beach end is not cheap, so it's not something I really even want to renew yearly. I would be fine with, if we could agree on something, you know, every 2 years or something like that. It's not something I'm looking to do every year. I can tell you that right now. I've been, you know, on the property since 2019, and I mean, at this point, it's maybe the first time I'm asking to try to refreshing it. So, I mean, if we put something into the order of effect, like every 3 years or 5 years or something,
Or-
like that does not have to be every year. I personally will not be refreshing it every year.
I was more thinking like you could get your dock permit and maybe
Yeah.
we revisit beach sand at a different time.
Or next year,
Because it seems like this is gonna be a sticky
Yep,
issue.
yep.
And or excuse me, Mr. Chair, is there something other than sand? Because I don't know what, you're not at the beach volleyball, right? Or I don't know, almost like pea stone, because sand, how are you gonna keep it there? It's gonna move, right? Something, but then you want something you want to walk on, right? So I don't know, you can refurbish what's there by raking it up, right? You can, so I don't know what your options are.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm saying, like that would be probably more of the yearly maintenance that I would do, is just kind of, brushing up, cleaning up like the spring, cleaning up like everybody does in their yard with leaves and stuff like that, because the leaves fall off the trees, they get into the sand, and it makes it a whole mushy and gross to walk through. So that I would obviously want to be able to clean up the yard, like I clean up the grass and everything else, but as far as actually like bringing in like we talked about, a dump truck of sand or something like that, that's not something I'm looking to do every year, and probably not even every other year or every 2 years, like, anything, like I said, like 3 to 5 years or something like that, just to have an effect and an order like that that allows me the permission to it is really just what I'm seeking, to be honest with you. It's not a yearly thing that I'd be trying to do.
There's a bigger problem here, but if you look at the drawing, what BP is saying is that whole beach is behind the border of the bank.
Floodplain.
Okay.
So technically, their suggestion is to take it out.
Right, which I did, that's
So
so
at that point, adding any sand is kind of like saying, okay, well, we know that it's wrong, but keep doing it.
right, so that's where I'm kind of,
And or Mr. Chair, the quandary as to how to keep the sand from eroding is problematic unless, well, a more naturalized form would be some sort of buffer of vegetation along the edge. You could still have a beach in the upland area,
Right.
but it's something to keep the sand from
And
moving.
planning a wall right on the bank edge where you can secure the dock to, that then you put the sand above that or into the lake isn't such a bad thought.
But that was one basin. Oh, God, I don't think it's not either.
Well, it's
It's
kind of is.
Like I'm trying not to build something in the lawn, essentially.
But we're not talking the, I don't know, the immediate habitat right there. In this, it's more concerned, what is that gonna do to the lake, right? It's not, so there's a lot of considerations we are supposed to be taking into consideration. He is kind of saying, you really want, it, you're gonna have to do a natural resource survey, right?
That's already done, that I believe was done.
I don't know.
Otter, I don't think it was a wildlife habitat study, but there is a wetland resource report from Otter in that. From previous year where they.
Right, but that's different from, that's different from wildlife, which is usually much more, I don't know.
Yeah, where the fish on.
I just think if we can somehow parse out the sand for another time, at least you could get your dock permit, you know what I mean? Like, and then as a commission, we've really got to do our due diligence.
I think we're at. Yeah, come up with. Works for everyone.
It would be well advised to do that. So I mean, we can do that now. We could move to amend it and just approve the doc if we wanted to. Or say, come back next week and while we still have the public hearing open, I don't know.
That's up to you.
That would be my consideration, is to continue until the next meeting, and conversations can be had. And come up with a plan, see whether or not, and then it has to happen, and if it does, all it would be.
Sounds good, Mr. Chair.
So the presumption of bank, which has been altered since there's sand in the bank, is that the proposed activity, where a proposed activity involves removing, filling, dredging, or altering the bank, the issuing authority shall presume that such area is significant to the interest of the act. This presumption is rebuttable and may be overcome upon clear showing that bank does not play a role in the protection of the interests. In the event that the presumption is deemed overcome, the issuing authority shall make a written determination in the order. So you could determine that bank serves a purpose. If it's not overcome, then alterations to the bank cannot impair the physical stability of bank, water carrying capacity, groundwater and surface water quality, the capacity for bank to provide breeding habitat. And the one that's mentioned by DEP is that you may not alter up to 10% or 50 feet, whichever is less of the length of the bank. And so it's proposed to be 60 feet, which is the 50 feet.
This is a very sticky situation because if we let him do something, then everyone else is, you know what I mean? So we have to,
10 feet of the bank.
I mean, when it comes into that kind of triangle down the corner there, I mean, there's that little, return wall that needs to be repaired, that we discussed and taken care of. That, you know, that goes over a few feet. I mean, we could just, you know, cut off at that pinch point and just kind of keep the other area.
You could restore,
Yeah, kind of.
restore 10 feet and put plantings, is something that can be conditioned. I'm hesitant to make a recommendation that you approve the dock while there is an ongoing potential violation if it's still in a
Okay.
resource area.
got you, okay, that makes sense.
So I would approve just the dock.
Okay.
So we paid for the beach. Is another. Still wanna
What do you mean paid for the beach?
pay in the fees.
Oh, got you, okay, got you,
That's cool.
okay. How do you feel after hearing some of this tonight? What do you think?
I mean, the only other thing I could say is, I mean, I know, you know, obviously concerned about the moving into the lake and everything, but that area, the elevation, you kind of see on the drawings there, that's a very flat area, so it's not, you know, a lot of the rainwater and stuff like that, like I know, again, not to compare to other properties on the lake, but there are other properties that are very elevated across the lake, and yes, they do, you know, load a lot of stormwater and all that stuff into it, but where this property is located in that back part, I know conservation has actually walked it, signed it off on the house. Very flat beach, so it's not.
Right,
I can
but-
see if the beach was on an angle or something, then yes, it's gonna just wash right in, but majority of the sand, like I should tell you, like, we were just talking about prior, like, I usually typically gonna maintain it, I do just rake and kind of turn it up a little bit to keep it as fresh as I can, so I'm not replacing it every year. And it's able to do that because it's flat, you know, obviously if it was
Mhm.
on a slope, that sand would be going right into the pond and it would be, you know, dirt and.
Question though,
Underneath.
why do you need new sand then? If the sand doesn't erode into the pond, and wind and rain and storms will
It just,
cause erosion.
it kind of compacts it, is what I've been
And
finding.
then it gets filled in by the organic matter, leaf, whatever that fills in.
Right, like it's not that, you know, again, not like that I need it, that's why I'm saying I wouldn't be doing it every year. But it does get, you know, after the winters, and the freeze and the thaw and everything like that, the sand does get pretty dense and compacted. And then, you know, when you go to walk on it, it's almost like walking on asphalt after a winter, you know, so to be able to sprinkle some freshness, it just kind of gives that easier on the foot kind of walking basically to it, but, you know, not, like I said, I mean, it's not something I want to do every year or probably even every couple of years. So it's just, when it gets to that point, it's almost unbearable to walk on, you know, to be able to freshen it up.
Mr. Chairman, I support your recommendation of asking to put it off and pursue it offline. Because my concern is the precedent of this. I'm informed that there's many lakes, many beaches. And then another question relating to this is maintenance is one thing. I mean, bringing in sand, that's one thing that I have a hard time supporting. Maintaining something that's been there, how do you tell them no? But, so I don't know. Ideally, it would all be natural vegetation, right? So,
And that was part of the confusion of the permit. You know, when I filed it, I didn't know whether to file it under landscaping, and that's why I paid for the landscaping permit fee for maintaining it, or if it is actually under beach nourishment, which is a lot higher permit fee, and sounds like that's more like you're actually bringing stuff in, so. Yeah, we can.
If you're willing to this, I would entertain a motion to continue it till the next meeting so that conversations can be had. And better plan to be, no. Put together.
I make a motion.
Do we want a site walk? Again, some questions want to go out there.
I only really want to go when, if he's going to be pursuing the beach, I don't need to go out to see it, I don't think, for a dock. But if we're talking enhancement with sand,
Well, that's.
yes.
See.
With after that, well, you'll make the decision at our next meeting, and then maybe then we could schedule.
I think my suggestions are either to bring the beach back outside of the bank flags, because then you're not in a resource area. Or you can restore the 10 feet. Or you could do vegetation along the water side of the beach. Then you would not be seeing erosion, which is what we're concerned about. You also might have, geese aren't gonna come up on your lawn because they're gonna be scared. When they lose the line of sight, predators can get them. So then you have other benefits, maybe of planting negatives on the shoreline, but that's an expense.
Mr.
So
Chair,
do you want a site visit to draw those ideas out, or you want to go home and think about it and then, or I don't know what you,
You haven't seen the.
Yeah, I apologize, I didn't see.
it's all new to you, yeah.
So, yeah, maybe we just continue it and maybe have some.
It seems to be the.
Yeah.
yeah, but I make a motion to continue the public hearing for 35 Taft Ave to May 8th.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor? Oh,
Aye.
any opposed?
Oh.
When, am I there yet? All those in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is Carl,
So passes.
okay. You need your gavel, where did they go? Oh, it's right here. Peter, okay. down here.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes, sir.
point of order, you're supposed to close the public hearing before you take any votes on it.
we extended the public hearing.
I understand, but you're supposed to close the public hearing and then you vote on anything you're gonna do. Close the public.
Vote on anything we're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you would close public hearing, you would say any public comment, close the hearing, and then you go.
We can go backwards.
There's a lot to remember.
Does any of the public have any comments on this matter?
So. That being said, May 8th.
Sorry.
Continue the public hearing until May 8th. 35.
Maybe by Memorial Day.
So.
Too cool to vote.
Parcel intent, 42 Merle Street, E number 218 to be determined.
Sweet. Another point of order, please. Public hearings are supposed to start at the time that you sent out in the notice. The notice said this one was to start at 7 o'clock. I'm guessing that all 3 hearings that you set up today must have said 7 o'clock. If that's improper, it should have been, this one here should have been 7:15 or 7:30.
We'll get our secretary on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, typically the public forum starts at 15.
And Mr. Chair, and what happens if we schedule them at 10 minutes apart, the hearing goes for an hour? First one goes for an hour.
It's incumbent on you to manage the time so that they start on time.
Okay, I'll take that under advice. Good luck with the schedule.
It's the law.
To limit the
Okay,
amount of
rest of
hearing on a public hearing to only 1 hour or half an hour?
Then don't put the bet to that.
So only have one public hearing?
Well, you could if you're afraid it's gonna go over, if you can't manage it, the time for the next one to start on time.
Okay, well, this is all new.
Okay, so
All set?
Hello.
I'm Margaret Bacon, civil site engineering, and I'm here representing Richard Cochran for his parcel out there at 42 Millville Road. The intent of this filing is for to renew an expired permit. The original filing was back in 2013. He still is not quite finished yet. The permit has since expired, so the intent of this is to make the permit active. Most of the work is done, and kind of what I did there is, it's a long lot. Here's Millville Road, here's the barn he just built here. Here was the original driveway through the wetlands. The red is the as-built up until we've got the septic system in, we got the power line up here, but we don't have the house in, up at the top. Yep.
Now, when you said the original driveway, was that the original proposed driveway, or was the driveway in and then just relocated?
Original proposed, right?
Okay, so,
Yeah,
so there was never a driveway there.
that's correct. That was what was permitted the first time through back in 2013. And actually, during construction, I think a couple of you might have been here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On the
okay.
sidewalk?
Yeah, yeah. and
Is
then
this the same plan that you showed us on the sidewalk?
Yeah,
Okay, so this hasn't, you didn't update this plan with anything or?
not really. I was gonna talk to you about the replication area and all the things that we could do there.
I just found the original plan difficult, ambiguous, hard to read, and very unclear.
This one here?
Yes.
It would have been better to have, you know, the application area already drawn and ready to show us.
Well, it is, and the original replication area is right here. In order to get the square footage that was impacted when we put in that crossing.
Right, and then we had spoken about maybe putting it on one side of the driveway or the other.
Yeah, well, what I did is I got some pictures with me. I did a job in Attleboro. And you know, and I look at these things as opportunities. You know, Mr. Cacorn is supportive of this, but instead of just plant some shrubs, and I have the complete, you know, this was the original replication design with the plantings and specs that go along with it. We could try to do maybe something else when we talked about it, a little.
I liked your ideas. I was just very taken
Yeah,
aback
sure.
that from the original NOI, you had deviated so much. I think that's what's sticking in my brain. And that big red line on the paper, that's showing us where it went off, or is that where the plan was originally? Or is that is that where it ended up?
Yeah, is yeah, see the it's in black road, and then you can see all is actually
So the red is what?
is what's there now.
The red is the as-built.
Okay.
And the reason, you know, they moved it over there, because you saw all the ponding that was on this side of the culvert there. So during construction, it made a whole lot more sense to just shift it a little, so it wasn't so wet. And Rich did say he did talk to somebody on the commission who's making those moves. This would have been back in 2020. So-
Former chair, you don't know who,
And who's one of the members that's not here right tonight?
Tim Icardi?
Yes, I think it was him.
Usually alterations need to be done in the meeting and they have to be put on.
Alteration of,
If you're gonna move it, and isn't that an alteration?
A change of plans, what he means by alteration.
I guess, you know, sometimes when you're out there on construction, I mean,
You've been doing
sometimes it
this
just
a long,
makes more sense.
you've been doing this a long time.
I-
When it got moved, you should have said, you know, a big light should have gone
Well,
on.
he did talk to somebody on the commission when he made those moves. Not really. You know, the original design was a 12-foot driveway, but everything in red's about a 12-foot driveway. The crossing is, you know, pretty much dead nuts, width wise and elevation wise. Here's the crossing, and elevation wise, he's within an inch, you know, regarding inverts and, you know, it's a beautiful crossing. When you do wetland crossings, I mean, that's a pretty nice one. And I got some pictures of it during construction. It's a floorless box culvert. He put two of them in there. He didn't have to do two. He put two of them in there because there was two little rivulets, stream rivulets, and he put those, placed those box culverts right.
I thought it was great, but when you change your plans, you need to go through the proper channels, especially going through a wetland.
We have this right now. We're here with this new NOI.
Well, yeah, this is just to, you know, to reactivate the permit so we can finish it. And the only thing he really needs to finish is pretty much the replication area, because everything else is outside the buffer zone. And I think we were here, or I was here, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, to talk to you about, you know, doing something with that replication area, maybe, you know, creating something a little more beneficial than just, you know, planting some shrubs there. And then the chairman brought up how this permit is expired and you have to file a new one, and so here we are. So that's what we'd like to do, you know, to kind of change that replication area into see if the commission's more receptive, kind of like a micro pool or vernal pool. It wouldn't be attached to this wetland because you'd want to keep, you know, you wouldn't want any fish, you know, you want fish to access it, so you want to treat it like a little, you know.
Mr. Chair, I guess I'm a little confused. Where is the existing replication? Is there a replication plan on this?
Yeah, it's right, there's a little upland pump right here.
Okay,
Okay.
I see an arrow around an area, but I'm used to replication that shows planting plans.
I got it right here on the second sheet.
Okay, fair enough. So that is what was proposed?
Yes,
And then now you're saying that you see it as an opportunity to do something better.
that's correct.
Okay, but you don't have a sketch for that.
Well,
You're looking for us to, because we had a sidewalk and it sounded like you had good ideas.
I thought they were good ideas, just need to see it.
Suggesting to change it and would go back and change it and come back to a future meeting.
and I knew tonight I wasn't gonna get through here the first night. I haven't got a DEP file number, so I knew I was coming back anyways. I was kind of looking for some feedback, though, you know, the commission is on board with, you know, doing something like that, like those pictures I showed you. And actually on those pictures too, you'll see we created a turtle nesting habitat. Now, when we first permitted this through natural heritage, there used to be the eastern box turtle. And
Until
then
it builds.
What?
And then destroyed the habitat.
Well, no, I filed this with natural heritage and I guess that's not a rare species habitat anymore.
Do you have the paperwork for that or a link to that, to their findings?
I see.
Oh, you do?
No, it's fine. Yeah, they did.
Security.
Right, once you
Okay, great, thank you.
dehabitat something, guess what?
Well,
They don't live there anymore.
Well, sometimes species, as they, you know, bounce back, they take them off the list.
Yeah.
It's still on the threatened endangered species list. Yes,
Okay.
it is.
But they've changed the habitat and Mendon is on the border, so now really only the southeastern part of Mendon is being flagged. So it's not just because something was developed. They took all of Upton out of the box habitat.
Right, but when you dehabitate something, there's no habitat for creatures to live there anymore. Well,
So,
So this driveway also has a 2-inch force main on it? Is that what
Yes, yeah, from
for the
the
sewer
barn, correct.
pumped up?
Yeah.
I guess I don't have any more questions if we're going to be seeing this again, right? Or
I would like to see the updated drawing. And that second page with the you know, what you want to do as far as, if you are interested in putting ponds, you know, give us a reason why ponds are better than the natural vegetation that is there now. And again, putting it on paper seems to make more sense.
Yeah, well, like I said, I just wanted a little feedback before I went to a lot of time doing that. And, you know, we don't have to do ponds or vernal pools. I just thought it was an opportunity on that site. You've got groundwater 2 to 3 feet down, so it's rather easy to do, you know, in that area. Can't
And
do
it's
it
not
everywhere.
connected to another, so it would be a potential vernal pool.
Well, that's correct.
Yeah.
We won't want to connect it to the stream down below. Keep it separate.
Aren't you supposed to connect to the existing wetlands if you're doing no replication?
Yeah, that's the performance standard,
Mhm.
that the replacement area shall be
What you-
unrestricted.
Right, and I guess,
If you think it's more
Yeah.
beneficial, it must.
right,
Yeah, you don't wanna
well,
break the-
we can connect them, but we don't want that stream to flow into the vernal pool, because we want to keep it fish free.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so some thought would have to go into that and design.
So maybe, again, better, it would be better information.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, we have a lot of the public here, for this.
That's the next thing. I'm going to ensure that anybody online, and anybody in the audience has a chance to speak and be heard. You have something?
I just wanted to say, so you did a site walk. When was that? Because I've been a little laid up with the,
Weeks ago,
yeah, knee surgeries and stuff.
I think the
Is there a
work,
chance to do another,
But-
walk or no?
Bob, everything looked okay to you though? Like, it looked okay to me, but I don't know.
Driveway's in, the driveway's secure,
Okay.
you know, it's, the box drains are there, on the side of the stone walls for the box drains. He
Okay.
has water flowability, so the job itself that's there is nice. It's the replication area
Okay.
and the continuing to complete the project, that's why we're getting that.
Yeah, so I think I could move on to some, little bit more detailed verification and what kind of species and whatnot and plans, unless it was already presented.
So,
No.
does anybody online have anything? See any hands up, so. So I'll open it to the audience. Michael,
Mr. Chairman. My understanding, this is basically a new filing,
correct.
and if you look at the project is for a wetland crossing for a driveway to access a new single-family home. The original filing expired probably 2016, because but it says here the wetland crossing was completed in 2020. Is that working in the wetland without a permit?
I think it was COVID or something that the extension.
2013,
Or
Yeah.
16.
The permit expired, I believe, in 2016.
correct, or at least,
Work was being done 2020 in the wetland. Are we addressing that?
so I guess the.
That's a good
the
point.
question that we should be asking the engineer is, when was the crossing put in?
2020, summer of 2020.
After we, yes, we would be working without a permit.
And it was about that time we got a complaint, right, from a neighbor, and I'm not quite sure if we had a discussion about this 2 years ago, right? I forget how many, it was. But in any event, is that water under the bridge or how does that affect?
Well, no, I just want to make the board aware of it, not to overlook it, that there was work going on without a valid permit. Yes.
Isabella, what's
And
that?
I'm just wondering if that was taken into consideration. Are we gonna think about that? Or are we just gonna let that slide? Or- I'm looking at, what was that?
Have the permit in front of you. You might as well review and condition this permit if the board had been discussing it without a permit application, you could have done an enforcement order through that avenue, but, you know, this is a new filing.
Yeah.
So, right there, the key words, new file.
File.
The applicant should come with a complete set of plans on what he wants to do. I understand what the applicant's trying to do, get a little feedback, so he's not thinking about going one way and then investing money to go one way and then be told that it can't be done, and then invest more money in the other way. I understand that perfect. And I believe that's what she was here doing, trying to get a feel for what we want.
So we made that clear when we were on the sidewalk.
So even though you
And
guys.
that's what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is, we gotta give the applicant clear direction
Okay,
right now.
and I don't believe that, if it's my understanding, I don't believe that we're unhappy with the road crossing. We're unhappy with the permit expiring and that the wetlands haven't been addressed in the time that they should have been. So now, again, it brings you back to the point of the commission that since it has expired, since work is taking place outside of the timeframe of the audit, that now it creates other questions that need to be addressed.
I would like to, ask for another MISA review because this is 14 years old or whatnot.
It's not in National Heritage Habitat anymore.
Oh, okay.
So it's not subject to.
Yeah, it wasn't mapping, but sometimes you still need that review. So.
I did send, Natural Heritage, the latest notice of intent plans.
Okay.
And then they emailed me back and said I was kind of surprised that
Okay.
it's not in that habitat anymore. So,
Did
All right, we're gonna
bring up to the
Okay.
commission that, yeah, I want to see how you feel about it, is it's a one-to-one replication on this. Is that acceptable with everybody? Because I was always under the impression it's one-to-one and two-to-one when it comes to replication.
Well, that would be staff comments there, right? Application should be at 2-to-1 ratio to encourage success.
Well, what's the present requirement? Because now it's a new filing.
The current
They have to abide by the 2025.
Current standards.
Current regulations are only 1-to-1.
If it's under 5,000.
It's going to a bunch of summer.
So Isabella, has anything been filed in respect to something new being filed? If they need a new file, yes,
This is the public hearing for the new application.
okay. So they're doing that.
Yes.
So we don't have to worry so much about that. So I don't know, I guess I'm just a little confused because everyone keeps saying new filing, new filing. So you're doing a new filing,
correct.
okay?
But maybe it's not complete, I guess. I'm here.
Well, yeah, there's no need.
In order to make it complete,
No
we
need.
need to update for,
Yeah.
So we, I believe you did do the, file, the NOI.
Yes. Yes.
So now what we're looking for is the drawings to support the information that is in the NOI.
Okay, well, basically, it's gonna be those drawings there, but I'm gonna design the replication area, vernal pool area, based on, feedback I'm getting from you here tonight, and come up with a better, replication plan. Now, the thing about one-to-one replication, now this is only my experience. I've done a lot of these. And sometimes one-to-one's great, sometimes two-to-one's great. It all depends on where you are, because what I really hate to see is sometimes when we go in there, we disturb a marginal wetland. And sometimes they are marginal. And then you go over there and you take down all these beautiful, mature trees just to do replication. And I just don't get this, sometimes it just is, we're matching the numbers on paper, but boy, sometimes I think we're doing a whole lot more damage, taking down all those trees just to get that, 2-to-1 replication. Every site's different. You got to treat it that way. It's my opinion.
So one more question based on the staff comments. The suggested plan be revised to incur entirely on one side, potentially on downstream for habitat connectivity. Could you also do that, but maybe on the other side have the pond? So you have the bulk of the wetland on one side. I guess we need a sidewalk, or we need to look at your ideas of what your proposed fix.
Well, again, she's looking for some feedback, so what you're saying is helpful for her, I believe.
Sure, and if I get, are those,
There's what?
Isabel comments?
Yeah.
Your comments, can I get a copy of those? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would not be in favor of cutting down any trees, obviously, so, do the application around. Huh?
That's in
They're already down.
100-foot buffer zone.
We,
Up there, that's beyond the 100-foot buffer zone.
Mr. Chair, you should probably open it up to the audience. I don't know.
Nope, I'm here
Oh.
first.
Carlos got it, sorry.
Is my mic coming through okay?
It
Yep,
is.
yep.
Loud and
Okay.
clear.
No, I can't
I
get it. Yeah.
apologize for missing the first 20 minutes or so. I was finishing up the town meeting prep meeting that I was doing wearing my other hat. We did the wetlands bylaw article early so that Isabella would be able to switch over to this one. In terms of 1-to-1 versus 2-to-1 replication and the other recommendations and staff comments, the Mendon Conservation Commission is subject by the performance standards in the Wetland Protection Act and the DEP regulations. So if an applicant comes to us with the plan that meets those requirements, i.e. 1-to-1, then we are bound to accept them. The reason why we would encourage them to do more than 1-to-1 is because of the failure rate, as the language says, to encourage success. If they come to us with a 1-to-1 plan, which we approve because that's all that we're allowed to do in an enforcement because of the performance standard, then we are able to wait until several years down the road in order to determine whether the replication was successful or not. And all during that time, they are still subject to our Concom jurisdiction because we will not sign off on a certificate of compliance until we're comfortable that the replication has succeeded. So in that sense, it's in the applicant's best interest to maybe do 1.1, 1.2, or even up to 2.1, 2-to-1, depending on the nature of the site. But we do have to leave it to the applicant to say what they're coming to us and asking us to approve. So in that sense, that's how I view recommendations versus what they are. Our recommendations are something that, as Mike says, we can provide guidance to them, but if they come back with an updated plan that doesn't meet those, then we have to be making a decision as to whether to issue an order of conditions or not based on performance standards. Okay.
Thanks, Carl.
Okay, so, and do that. Opening it up to the board, vernal pool versus typical restoration. Anybody have opinions on that?
I like vernal pools if it's appropriate.
I was there. What you suggested was fine.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but,
I'd have to sit, so what you suggested was fine. I need to see a plan for
I
the
know.
plantings and, yeah.
I'll put that or something.
Right, so,
yeah.
so it sounds like that's
Yeah.
acceptable, a vernal pool with some, border and vegetated wetland, plants and whatnot. Again, a plan would be probably appropriate.
Yeah. Now, this application, now come back in 2013, so I was.
That's when the turtles were still in.
What?
That's when the box turtles were still in. So an updated plan wouldn't be a bad idea.
Those are wood turtles.
So with that being said, anybody, audience, state your name.
Jane Lowell, 40 Melville Street.
Why don't you come up here to the, so that the mic.
Oh, yeah, the microphone.
I had a question. I wondered if, the applicant had permission from Concom to dump fill back there? Did they get?
I don't think so. There's reference that there had been communication to some member. I don't know if it was our former chair or Tim. I know Tim was knowledgeable about the building permit, so no, I would think would be.
There was a lot of fill dumped there.
Is the fill in the buffer zone or nothing?
All I know is I could see it from my house. It was going back.
So I would suggest that again, when the commission makes a sidewalk,
We go all the way back.
well, I would suggest that the wetlands and lines get reflagged. So you know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
I get some real.
That's a good idea because there
What
were,
did-
there
Jane,
wasn't
did
any.
this plan, have you had a chance to see? Because, I mean, there's a lot of mounds here. I'm assuming are filled mounds, right?
Yeah, he does have,
So those, and that's what I'm thinking, he sees, right? Because that area was all cut with trees.
yeah, and that's off subject. right
So
there.
that opened the view to her.
Well, the fill was dumped before the trees came in.
So this plan shows pile. You pick out the piles, those concentric circles. And is that what you're suggesting might have been filled?
I have no idea.
And I think Mike's suggestion that it would have been okay, because this is outside of the 100-foot buffer. So I think then they wasn't the prosecution.
I just know that the rest of this equipment out there is where I ride the horses. There's a brook, Trillium landed there. It's adjacent to our property that is all vernal pool. We have actually a little pond on the the north side of our property.
Now, Jane, is that in addition to where you put the driveway to do the wetland crossing? Is that back where all the trees were cut or where are you talking about?
Well, a little closer than where the trees were cut, but yes, including that. Not only that, but my son-in-law was there and he wanted to see the pond and it was not a good day. So he had his drone and he put it over there. And I think you got a photograph of a cellar hole that looked like a swimming pool. It was all filled with water. So I don't know. I mean,
Honestly, that could also just be because it rained and it had the cement floor on the bottom.
I am talking about, I mean, it would have had to be 3 feet of rain. You know, I mean, it is
So
very wet.
again,
It is very
so
wet.
No, that's true. It is, it's a wet siding. Groundwater is at 18 inches to 2 feet, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very wet, and I think I don't know. I am concerned about what's happening, what the impact on my property will be. I am planning actually, even though my house is in a historic district of one house. I know what happens in Mendon, and somebody could, run a road back there and put houses back there. So I am going to be applying to have that, conservation, so nobody can go back.
so you're hearing, maybe having everything flagged,
Oh, yeah.
especially where the house is going and whatnot, isn't a bad idea.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would make that requirement to do filing, but starts fresh.
Right, any area to be worked in within wetlands should be flagged.
I just have some real concerns. So disappearing in Mendon.
I have a question.
People are planting in wetlands. Excuse me.
Sorry, what, were you again? I'm sorry.
I'm number 40.
Oh,
Your butts on the north side.
Is your house the orange house?
Yeah, it is.
I live in an old house too, so.
Well, it,
That was a lot of land.
This
Of
for
the,
colors.
Clark Hancock House in Lexington.
Oh, nice.
It's not it's unusual.
I'm in a historic district too.
It is historic. So,
It hasn't faded that.
yeah.
Jane, any other concerns?
Well, just about the wetlands, like, and people adhering to the bylaws, and
We're trying.
if we don't like the bylaws, change them. But,
It's up for me.
We're trying to-
Working on that.
Town meeting, the
Town
town
meeting.
meeting.
oh, I'm gonna follow them.
So our new proposed bylaws up there.
But anyway, that's it, I'll just hope that.
Any other members in the audience who'd like to speak?
Thank you very much.
Please, Rich, come to the mic, please.
Excuse my appearance, so they had to come from working on my yard, getting ready for a wedding, so. Disheveled. Chris Schofield, 135 Blackstone Street. I know that doesn't make me a butter, but what does make me a butter is my capacity as treasurer of the Mendon Historical Society, who I represent tonight. What makes us an abutter is that the square, small postage stamp piece of land that houses the Taft Monument belongs now to the Mendon Historical Society, having given it us by the Taft Family Association that went defunct. So that's what makes us an abutter. So what I'd like to say, and I very much appreciate, Mr. Mendeley, your comments, very, very much. I appreciate your comments because I remember back when I was a selectman, he received, Mr. Carter received, sorry about that, received the permit to build that building. Mr. Akati wrote very clearly on his permit that the space inside was not to be used as an accessory apartment. And also that building that he's got is not in a commercial zone. I don't believe for 1 minute watching the activity over there that's not being used as an apartment, nor do I believe that he's not using it as a commercial piece of property.
Mr. Schofield?
Yeah.
That's not a conservation.
I understand, but Paul, I'm not done with my little train of thought yet, okay? So what I'm saying to you is I believe that I don't like the fact that Mr. Carpenter did not, I'm showing a pattern here, and I don't like the fact that he did not have a permit to do what he did. And that the permit expired. It just is a pattern of behavior that I don't like, and I wish that there was something, I don't know if there's anything punitive you can do, but if there is something punitive you can do, I'd like to see it done. And that's my opinion.
And that's what we're here for tonight, is to make sure that we take into consideration what was done and rectify the situation with the new NOI.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm having, listening to the way the conversation's going, it doesn't sound like there's anything punitive that will happen, but anyway, I'm just asking you, if there is something, I would appreciate it being done. That's it.
Very good. Thank you
And
for your
the
comments.
postage stamp of where's the monument? Or is it-
If you look at Mrs. Lowell's property.
Yeah.
And you're looking at her house off to the right, at the far right-hand side of her property, there's a little inlet there with a little nice little stone wall. I don't know. if I can-
No, but it's close, so it's on,
Well, it's even closer to Mr. Parker's property
Right,
than
yes,
this,
okay.
than James is, yes.
Rich, is that anywhere near where that road, those two stone walls make the road that goes in the back? Side of those wetlands?
Yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten about that.
Okay.
and now stone walls, was that in the
I'm
buffer?
done with my comments, Mr.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I think
Hi.
you're.
I'd like to respond.
Go ahead, Mr. Hummel.
Thank you. In terms of what action the Concom is taking and being punitive and whatnot, one of the differences now in the past year between the Conservation Commission and what we're able to do and what we were doing in previous years is that we have a full-time, mostly conservation agent. One of the first things she did was to go through all of our DEP filing numbers and find out which ones had expired and which ones were still actually having work done. And that had not been done historically. So yes, between 2016 and 2020, there may have been work done on the site that was not covered under the appropriate DEP paperwork, but that was also on us because we didn't have the staff and the resources to keep track of it. We now do. And we are very happy that we have our agent who is now able to work with us. Mendon Conservation Commission has written more enforcement orders in the past 2 years than we have in the previous decade, again, because we have the staff who can write the orders, do the inspections, and carry out the follow-up activities. In 2020, members of the conservation at that time were aware of it. We didn't have staff at that time. We did have volunteer people doing it. And at that time, we became aware of what was going on in this parcel and we started working about it. So I don't want to look backwards in terms of punishing people for what happened when the Concom was working with different members on the committee and we were understaffed. But I can say that going forward, we're able to have hearings like this one. We will have a notice of intent and order of conditions eventually filed for this site. And we will have staff who will be able to go out and monitor the site as the work is being done and updated in a way that we did not have back in 2013. So yes, we could be punitive, but I don't want to go back in time and say what we should have done. Instead, we want to be forward looking. So I hope that helps to address the concerns that members of the public are expressing for us.
Not at all.
I agree. Totally agree.
Two questions.
You all set, Colin?
Yeah.
Mrs. Schofield?
Kathleen Schofield, 135 Blackstone Street. Based on the information that we know as to the execution of the original project, when these were filed, and the very long length of time between start to finish and moving on to the next step, is there any way, because, you know, replication is important when it's done in a timely fashion, could this project potentially, you know, go another 5, 6, 7 years, and have to be called back? I'm just curious to know if the commission has some jurisdiction over setting a time frame for getting certain projects completed.
As Mr. Hummel spoke to, there is a 3-year time frame on an NOI, and then they can extend after that by the year.
That's up to the commission, and you could set a stricter, you could say you want to see the work done within a year and permit for 2 years. But I would be mindful of planting seasons. You don't want to
Sure.
maybe say, get it all done with the year when maybe the fall or 6 months. Maybe say get the work done in 6 months, and then the fall is the best time to plant.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are, you know, considerations. For
And if that's all that this is the replication, we should be able to get it done in a timely manner, right?
Well, at this point now, I believe, since Mr. Mandalay had spoken to it, and so with some of the residents, having a new flagging done near where the house is going in makes sense. So that area should be put into considerations as to what is back there.
Yeah, then once it's flagged, we can go back on another sidewalk and.
So there's the lot, this shows a house being there. So is there a new one being built?
There's a new house being built way in the back.
Okay.
Way in the back.
In terms of replication, we would almost certainly be willing to issue a partial certificate of compliance when the work had been done. And then that would be conditional on the restoration being completed, which might take several years.
But in order to give a partial, gotta have a working order of conditions. So this is the first step in getting everything done.
And also, now that we have a full-time conservation agent, it's a lot easier to keep on top of things.
Yeah.
Where before it was whoever could fill the seat.
Indeed. All right, well, thank you. Thank you, Carl.
Sir?
Van Lolling, 15 Kelly Road. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. I have just a couple of concerns. I want to echo this gentleman's comments about staying on top of this contractor. He has, as you know, he has broken the law. And I firmly believe that he will take advantage every opportunity he has to do the same. So since you do have someone here on the commission now that will be monitoring him, I hope you do stay on top of it. Because he did not want to be trusted. The other question I have is, I am on Kelly Road and his property abuts mine and my Tucker's. And for the last, starting in the fall, we saw hundreds and hundreds of trees cut down. And there's no explanation as to what his intent is. And I'm just wondering from the engineer, do you have any idea what he's going to do back there? I know he has a permit for one house, and I know where the foundation and the leach field already is. But I'm just concerned about my property valuation and what his intent is.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with conservation. So,
No, I know it's out of the buffer zone. I'm just curious.
okay,
That's the whole reason why I would like to see the whole site reflagged
right.
so that we know what the jurisdictions are. And I understand your point, but we have to do this by.
Yes,
Mr. Chair, because it's not us, but I think EPA might have something, aren't you supposed to file a permit to clear more than a half acre or?
Yes.
Wouldn't that have something to do with the forestry plan?
Well, and that would be another.
Well, there's no comments, just they might have
You know,
comments for that.
I came to the town because when I saw all these trees being taken down. 44 Millville Street, so I bought down right there.
You're on the other
I
side.
saw all these trees come down, so I went down to the town and I was frantic because I didn't even think he had a building permit. Does he have a building permit? Has it been approved? I don't think it is.
It was approved once.
Yeah, I believe there's
There was a valid foundation permit. I'm not up to
right,
date.
the continuation of still, does he even, going through all of this, does he even have a building permit?
Typically, you get the conservation permit before you apply for a building permit.
Okay.
And has a well been drilled? So I mean, he's doing that,
It looks like there's a foundation that's already been dug to.
right, you got a foundation permit, but that's not a building permit, but it's on the way to it. So,
And there's,
yeah.
But that's another concern. This gentleman just cannot be trusted to follow the rules, and any leeway that he's given, he's going around. Okay, he's been living in that barn that he created, built for since what, 2010, 2012?
It's not a barn, it's a garage.
It's a garage, whatever it is. He's been living there without a home attached to it. He did the same thing on Kinsey Lane. Lived in there without a home attached to it, and he was forced to connect it. And then he moved across the street, did the same thing, built the barn and put this huge driveway and cleared out all these gorgeous trees. He's disrupting the wetlands. I've got my driveway that's being eroded. It's just a mess.
Is he allowed to do work still on the site?
I don't think there's been any work since.
Okay.
He can pretty much,
No, this-
if he's not in the wetland or in the buffer zone, he can do his property.
Right.
But he's got utilities, he's got Verizon, he's got electric.
I understand that, and again, I understand exactly what's saying. Time and time again, we get these cases. I've been on this board for over 35 years. And it's a thing that we deal with wetland issues, and that's what we're trying to do. These other issues are very concerning. In order to get something done, you've got to go to the planning board, you've got to go to the see if you have a variance, et cetera, Board of Health. We deal with issues. That's why I made a statement that first thing we do, flag the wetland so we know where we are, our jurisdiction is. And then we can verify the accusations or prove the accusation. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, we also have a backhoe back there, and I can see it from my house, and I know that's in wetland.
All right. At this point then, there's enough questions and you were looking for comment.
Say legal, claim filed, where between Richard Carpenter and myself for a land dispute. And I don't know how that can be open in the court and him be allowed to get a building permit for that property.
Again, that's building, that's not conservation. That's a civil matter.
But I'm just
So-
saying, these are the open things that he's jumping over.
Yep.
And you can't put trees back, you can't put these things back, you can't, once these.
Oh, you can. It's just expensive.
Yeah.
Now you
So
can't put-
at this point, then, I'm gonna-
Excuse me, but I haven't got my answer yet. I asked the engineer a question about if she knew what was gonna happen back there with all the trees gone. That was one of my questions. I don't mean to interrupt, but I didn't get an answer from him.
Yeah, as far as I know, the only thing that he was planning on doing back there is was one single family house. It hasn't been constructed yet. They dug for the cellar hole, septic system's in, but that's it. There's nothing else he can do back there, building wise. You know, it's a single family house lot.
Right.
And you can't put any more than that on there.
I was just concerned because I could not get an answer from anyone. And just what happens when the loggers were working there, they took a break and they walked over the stone wall. And I asked them, and one of the loggers said to me, I don't know if you're aware of this, but he said to me, to the best of his knowledge, he wants to clear that out and put it in an apple orchard. And so that is what I heard from the logger, which is, what he probably heard. So here's another, one more question I have. Does the Conservation Commission have the ability to stop a building permit until the wetlands, everything has been rectified the way you want it to be before he's issued a building permit for that house?
You would think, no, the commission cannot hold the building permit. Building permits can be issued, however, you're not allowed to start work if it's occurring in the buffer zone or wetland resource area, so say hypothetically a building permit was issued, someone went in and built something in the buffer zone without their Concom permit, the Concom would have to issue an enforcement order to stop the work themselves.
Put a stop work order on.
Well,
So-
if he had put in that cellar, which it looked pretty, I mean, when you saw the demarcation, you see that it's a concrete cellar and it's filled with water, how, I mean, as I said, we used to ride the horses back there, so I pretty well know what was wet. And that cellar hole is in wetlands, it is not in the buffer zone.
Okay, at this point then, I'm looking for a motion to continue this until better drawings are done and it'll give everybody a chance to come back. We'll try to schedule a site walk to see what's in the back. The flagging will hopefully be done by then so that we can identify whether or not there's information that needs to be updated and then brought in front of the commission. And I'm looking for a motion to continue.
I would
moved
like to, hold on, I'd like to ask the applicant's engineer how long they would need to prepare now that they've received our lengthy feedback.
Thank you. Give me at least a month. I don't give me 2 weeks. Give me, you meet every 2 weeks, right?
When's
Yes,
the
okay.
next meeting after
Yes,
May 8th?
so the later meeting in May, hopefully that'll give me enough time.
I move that we continue this hearing until May 22nd.
Second,
All
Since I'm
in
here,
favor?
since I'm here, you need a roll call vote now.
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote, all in favor?
Carl Hummel, yes.
Susan, yes?
Mia Whiting, aye.
Peter Coffin, yes.
Like Amanda Lear, aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
So obviously,
Thanks. That's right.
the first order of business. we can get.
Yep. Take care of that and appreciate
All right.
your feedback.
Agenda item number 6, request for determination of applicability, 133 North Ave,
number 25-001.
That's been continued.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming. That has been continued. Rich, don't be a stranger. Right on that.
Sorry. Sorry.
Item number 7 is 31 North Bridge Street enforcement order. Review wetlands resource area impact plan as required by the enforcement order issued February 13th, 2025.
So Carmen and I went out last.
I don't want to be locked in here with you guys.
Carmen and I went onto the site on Thursday and we met with the engineer and the professional wetland scientist and the property owner, and we walked the property. There are photos in the SharePoint folder and I can print photos out if people want them. There were quite a few things that I noted that need to be on the plan, so we're still waiting on the plan. And I got a letter from the lawyer requesting that the commission consider the extension to May 8th.
When was the plan supposed to be in?
March 27th. So they are.
May 8th, that's our next meeting.
I don't want to, we need to get this going. If they're gonna do any replication or anything.
I'd like to see the plan and have a meeting for the whole commission site, so everyone can see it.
I'm on it, guys. I was there at the sidewalk and ladies, sorry. You all, if as many of you that can get out there to go look at this place, that would be good. Cause it's complex and it's a big space and there's lots of things that you'll have questions about that you won't be able to answer unless you've seen it.
Does anybody else have any comment, questions?
My input is that I believe that the site management team that the owner has assembled is now working in good faith. The people, the wetlands person had gone on and flagged the site. However, that day was the first time that the site engineer, I believe he said that was his first time seeing the site. People are out of the country and therefore not able to do work for about a week. So even though they have not been able to meet the original timelines in the enforcement order, I'm willing to cut them a bit more slack and give the site management team a chance to inform the homeowner as to the nature of the disturbances and potential violations in the area and allow them to come up with a plan. So Isabella, can you say what they're expecting to do first and then what they're going to be doing after that? Because I screwed up during the site walk.
The order requires the wetland resource area impact plan, so a site plan with the wetland delineation, the road, all of the culverts in the stream crossings, wetland crossings, and the plantings, bridges, stone walls, and other structures he's put in on the plan so that the commission can go out and see the site and look at the plan and say this is accurate. And then the second deadline in the enforcement order is for a restoration plan. So
Do we have either of those, any of those? Nothing.
well, you can't build the restoration.
Right, but what I'm saying
What's been
is-
impacted. So you're gonna need a square footage impact of BBW filled and bank altered, as well as buffer zone impact. So until the commission approves that plan, we're not moving into what.
Right, I get that. What I mean is,
We don't have the plan. No.
Is there, there's an extended time frame, but is there an end time?
can we make
Well,
it
now
May 8th?
you would be, I don't think you need a motion because they're out of compliance. So I would suggest to leave them out of compliance. But there is a written letter from the lawyer stating that they would like to continue to May 8th. So I think
If
it's
we-
enough to show that they are working on it.
Just, worst case scenario, if we continue to May 8th and we still don't have a plan then, what's the plan?
Should we give it then?
The deadline would be May, I would respond and say that the plan is May 8th. I think
I don't know.
hypothetically, if you get there, you can start finding and you can base it back to the date that we issued the order or the date that they failed to submit.
I believe that we have the attention of the owner and his site management team sufficiently. They're still working out what their different responsibilities are between the wetland specialist, the lawyer, and the actual engineering firm. But I would recommend giving them another 2 weeks. I am expecting that we will be getting regular status reports every 2 weeks, either having something in writing that Isabella has reviewed and is comfortable with, or we haul them in and have them give us a status update on how they are doing and what progress they are making on the paperwork. This is the same courtesy that we're doing for the next agenda item, where we're giving people time now that we've notified them that we're breathing down their necks.
And did it look like he had moved anything since we?
Is that-
Is that huge pile of rocky mess still there?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
So in that case, I will move, actually, I don't need to move anything. I would ask that we move on to the next agenda item.
So item agenda number 8, 2 Nipmuc Drive, DEP number 2180837. Review activity that has occurred outside of the limit of work approved with the permit.
Yeah, so. Mikey was here 2 weeks ago. They have cleared outside of the approved limit of work up to vegetation on bank. So we're expecting a new notice of intent because there also is no order. So the commission didn't issue the enforcement order because Rankin came in. So we're waiting on that, but I mean, we can't turn around and do it in 2 weeks, so.
Okay, and they're still working on the house, but they're leaving the rest of it alone until that happens.
So the abutters will be notified, we'll have the full hearing.
Yes, the expectation is that Mike Dean will submit a new NOI. And again, this is a case where every 2 weeks we'll be expecting to hear from him as to what the status is and if there are any delays. Because we have an enforcement order active.
No, you don't.
I was
There's
just
no
gonna ask
enforcement
her.
order yet.
Never mind.
Now, the question I have on that is there going to be a new plan? Is there any bank alterations or grade changes that are coming in the near future?
He's not allowed to do anything until he gets us an amended plan. Sorry, a new one.
And Carl and I met first with Benny,
Mhm.
and it seemed as though he has some ideas of something he'd like to do. Either an extra area to park or making the lawn larger, but he was informed that you had a permit for this limit of work. He has installed a secondary silt fence, so there's acknowledgement that he, someone knew that they were outside of the limit of work. Mike wasn't quite sure what Benny intended on, so they need to talk about it because they did this without valid approval. There's gonna have to be some sort of planting. You can't clear it. So I'm expecting some sort of planting in this notice of intent, along with whatever was. They're gonna put in the plan for the commission.
Planting will be somewhat difficult as this is the area where the old merry-go-round was, and there's still a whole lot of cement blocks from the 1910s, 19aughts under like 2 or 3 inches of dirt.
Any other questions, comments? All right. So
Yeah,
now-
who's the IT person?
Are we gonna ever do a site visit here or is it? You don't think it's.
That's an easy site to see. It's right on Route 6.
Well, no, it's not, because it kind of goes down the hill.
Once we get a new NOI, we'll schedule one.
Okay, that'd be good.
All right, so
That's great.
item agenda number 9, updates. Mr. Chair?
Changing hats, the General Bylaw Review Committee presented at the 6 o'clock meeting, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. The expectation is when we get to that part of the meeting, I will stand up as chair and make the motion for discussion. Isabella will, as Isabella will have been allowed into the meeting as a non-resident, she would be the first person to give the discussion, and she spoke to it at tonight's meeting. So you can review the video and hear what she would be saying.
Is someone gonna be there to second the motion when you make it?
I don't know. I hope so. It's very rare that a motion fails for want of a second at town meeting.
Anybody can second it, but it needs to be, someone should second. Sure, someone, if I'm there.
Next Friday.
And
I'm
is
sorry,
that
was there a question? I couldn't tell.
Anything else?
Nope, that's my chair stuff.
conservation agent?
I did have to do an admin, for the Mass DOT permit. They land underwater and the bordering land subject to flooding, temporary alterations was 96 square feet and 90, but I wrote 90 for both. So it like was 6 feet. But so I did send out a revised page for them to get the reporting. Beaver Solutions came out today to do the culvert and pond levelers for the pond on Providence Street and the one on Northbridge Road. So hopefully, we stop seeing flooding at those 2 sites. I don't know if I don't think I had anything. I'm certified as a culvert, stream crossing and condition.
You took the
inspector.
test today?
Yeah, it was like 5 hours.
5 hours?
Took a very long time.
Oh, my gosh.
What do you have to
Field
do?
days.
I know I tend to say.
But now I'll be I'm also certified as a trainer, so I can train you guys, I can train.
Ooh,
the
that'd be
highway
good.
Oh, awesome.
department.
I have experience with Scour. I should work the USGS.
And I'm still researching Beaver Solutions. One of the things that's hampering my research is that in Massachusetts, you're not allowed to relocate beavers. In other states, you can, you bring them to other places where they need habitat restoration. But in Massachusetts, you aren't allowed to relocate them. You just have to kill them. I'm still working on other, research.
Okay, anything else? The task force for Lake Nipmuc, there is no new news on that. The Lake Nipmuc Association hasn't started meeting yet. As soon as they do, then we'll get reports from them.
Do you sense that they would be engaged in the discussion of beaches
I was just
around?
thinking
the
of that.
We have been. I've been working with them last year, and so has Isabella. She's been going to the meetings and speaking to beach nourishment and walls, retaining walls and whatnot. So we're trying to work with them to educate other people, try to get them to put something in their newsletter, and put it up on bulletins so that people are informed of what the lake rules are.
There's a newspaper, right? I think that's the only way to do it, to generate some public discussion.
And they have their Lake Nipmuc website, so. So, yeah, the association does a really nice job of trying to keep people informed and engaged. And then land use,
No updates. I guess there's some naming of trails and whether you should use or not use Native American names. It was Bobcat Trail or, yeah.
That's a tough one. Maybe you stick to bobcat and fisher cat, I mean fisher, not fisher cat, sorry, wood turtle.
Wood turtle.
Spotted turtle, yeah, exactly. Box turtle, culvert, I don't know, brook crossing.
I'm thinking of Mendelia trick.
Yeah, I'll say, Mark Menusion, who owns Quistit Farm, he did build that trail, the new one on Inman Hill. I've been out there a few times, it's still quite muddy, so I'm hoping there's some vegetation that grows in there. But Mark came in this week, he wants to make sure he's part of the bid applications for Muddy Brook North and Maple Farm to do some of the construction there when we hopefully get the grant. So I thought that was nice.
You mean Mark, the guy,
Engaged.
the farmer guy?
Yeah.
What happened to the,
Kind of a nice
the
turnaround.
gentleman that came in here, part of his land was getting flooded, so the people going on the trail were going onto his property to avoid the mud. And he was trying to put a bridge in and he was getting pushed back.
We got the beavers this weaver in there.
It's
Well,
something.
and then it's working. It went down about 4 feet and also.
Because it can't write down, and I'll show you why.
Oh, yeah.
You
Put
don't want to
an
be
additional
just
conservation boundaries.
Interesting.
Trying to keep the residents happy.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree with that.
Okay, so, item agenda number 9-8. Approve, minutes for April 10th, 2025.
I move we approve the minutes for April 10th, 2025.
I second.
Roll call vote, all in favor?
Susan, I.
Just say roll call vote. Carl Hummel, yes.
Susan, I.
Leo Whiting, aye.
Peter Coffin, aye.
Mendelia, Motion passes. Oh, any opposed?
You
Motion
don't,
passed.
we're not taking a voice vote, so you don't need to call for the ayes and nays. You just call for the roll call. It's either or.
Oh.
Yeah, we just keep it black and white.
All right, the good and welfare of the for the commission.
Yeah, I'd like to have someone, when I joined the meeting, I believe Mr. Krikorian was talking about public hearing times. Could I be, that might be something appropriate for good and welfare. What was his
Mr.
position?
Yeah,
Schofield, he wanted us to schedule, we should have the hearings start at a set time. So
Okay.
if we have multiple hearings, we have to know it's going to be 45 minutes, an hour, then we got to wait until I don't know.
Okay, we stopped
said
doing that.
legally-
We stopped doing that because of a previous town policies. So I'd ask Isabella to check in with other town hall staffers to make sure that we are following the same policy as other town boards.
It's the law.
Why don't we just investigate the law? That's the point is, the law specifies that if you say 7 and then 7:15, you can't go past 7:15 before you start the next meeting. So either we got to space them a half hour apart.
I'm all of them to be at 7, so. Which was something I think Carl and I talked about when I first.
Right, that is his opinion.
the-
I would like Isabella to do further research with other town staffers.
Well, wouldn't it be town council if he's speaking to a
I
legal
think the
matter?
law. is here, so I'll circle back.
Find out what the law is and print out the paragraph that says that, please.
No, we're there, it's all done.
Because that should be with the planning board and the board of health.
Well, let's find out what the law actually is. And we make sure that we comply. We don't care what anybody else does. We want to comply with the written law.
His, Schofield's other point was that we need to close the public hearings before we go to vote. Which is something we don't typically do either.
No, because you don't close a hearing.
Until
And then
everybody's been heard.
Yeah,
You
Like
know,
if you close the
what do you
public,
do when you continue a hearing?
Which is what we wanted to do. You can't close it.
You can't
You gotta vote to
continue it
continue.
without, exactly, so. Again, just check the rule book and print out the copy. Like I said, I don't care what other people do. If we're gonna act more, we're trying to act more professional. Let's quote the law, not what Joe Shit said. This is what we do over here.
I talked to Jack Hunter, who was the town planner before. And his opinion was that you close the public hearing because the public will no longer comment once you go to vote. I'm not sure about the continuance question.
Shouldn't we just say we're closing public comments on this? And let that be it?
I think,
Instead of just
you
changing.
would have to say you're stopping as opposed to closing.
Sure, right, that's what I mean.
Because at that point, no more public comments will be entertained at this
Right,
point.
I think that's
We're
what you
going
said.
to vote on continuing or not.
Mhm.
Which we pretty much do anyway, we just cut them off and we go to vote, so we just have to make a statement and 40% whatever the law says.
And we often do that when we don't have a DEP number or we're still waiting for
Yeah.
DEP's comments.
Or details and.
My concern about closing public comment and then having a vote on a continuance is it does not, we would have to then reopen further public comment and that might require another newspaper posting. So as I said, I'm hoping that our agent will untangle the quagmire and give us more information.
Right, because the intent should be that if I attend a hearing, I want to know when is the next hearing, right? At time certain. I don't want to have to check to see when it got continued too, but yeah.
Is it ever a case that the applicant, it's their choice not to come in, the applicants? There's no law that says the applicant has to come in.
Right, but then it's subject to us denying them. if we
So
can't get it.
outlines how you have to continue public hearings, so the applicant doesn't show up. The
But the-
commission doesn't have to, the commission can or can't. The commission can, but doesn't have to open the hearing at all.
Does it count if
If
the
they-
engineers here?
Yes, they're the
It's
representative.
represented.
If you need permission from the applicant to continue.
Okay,
If the applicant doesn't show up, you can continue without permission. If the applicant says, I don't want to continue, you would have to make a decision.
And usually that very, very rarely happens because
You know what the decision's gonna be.
right. Not passing.
but being that like the engineer was here, she's representing, we never see the real applicant for a lot of
You
these.
don't need to. sit
But most applicants don't want to be here because they only shoot themselves in the foot.
Exactly.
How do you know that?
Thank you very much.
And now you're
All
on the
right,
other
moving
side of
on.
the gavel.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, now you're on the other side of the gavel.
Comments are, is we're trying to, as you can see, people get very emotional when it
Yes.
comes to their property. All of a sudden, they're bringing up things that are not in our jurisdiction. So, and we don't want to be rude to someone, say, no, that's why I just kept saying, well, you know what, let's get a flag, and that'll put an end to he's dumping in the wetland or not.
It will help us. The site is big. And there was, and you can see what the wetlands are, but there's no balloon.
We ready for my favorite motion?
So, hold on. There's no item, are there any items not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours of the meeting?
Yeah, who's the IT person? So for the Microsoft Authenticator for the Mendon, account, I couldn't even, I scanned it like 3 times, said not, no data associated with this barcode or the, whatever. Who's the thing?
It's not under conservation, let's move
Well,
on.
it is because I need to get into the files, but I can't because it wants me to scan something and get into the Authenticator. I put it half,
Send email to the help desk.
Yeah, you can email WorldNet or call.
so they're still, okay. I just wasn't sure who it was still, so.
Okay, so,
Our
That
next
was
meeting
it.
date is when?
Sorry.
May 8th.
May 8th.
I don't believe I'm gonna be around for that. I'll be gone for a week.
We'll miss you, Mike.
I hope it's enjoyable.
granddaughter's graduation down in Myrtle Beach.
Good for you.
Oh, wait, what's the date of this, the next thing? Oh, the
May
night.
8th.
Okay, that's fine.
The
My
8th.
son's graduating, but, he's got two ceremonies, one's on 7th during the day, so.
So I'm looking for a motion to.
Motion adjourn.
Second.
No, let's just stay. Let's stay.
Carl
All
Hummel,
those,
yes.
roll call?
Carl Hummel, yes.
Oh, Susan.
Yeah,
Peter, I.
Yeah.
Motion passed.